So yeah, poster art is a whole genre that really came into its own um, late 19th century, turn of the century, with lithograph techniques uh, getting more highly developed, and so that we'll look at some of the early French ones first. Uh, but there's um, some of them are really beautiful. A lot of them are. So what's this? This is how posters changed history.
Posters have a pretty fascinating history, partly because they've actually influenced history. And I think our Dubai poster is a good place to start, because just as new means of mass production allowed these skyscrapers to exist, it was new means of mass production color lithography, which allowed the whole poster art movement to exist. Before lithography, we'd had woodblock printing for over 1,000 years. Now that was carving into wood, so very labor intensive. Hokusai in Japan is probably the recognized greatest master. Then Jules Cheret perfected color lithography, ushering in the Belle Epoque, or beautiful era. And the streets of 1890s Paris were soon teeming with these dynamic, eye-catching designs. People just loved them. This was viral content, and it soon became a primary form of communication from Berlin, Milan, New York. Creatively, this was Art Nouveau, with its floral lines, flowing with feminine energy, reflecting a bourgeois period of conspicuous consumption. Even if, creatively, it might feel a little busy, almost quaint to modern eyes. The father of modern poster design was Leonetto Cappiello, whose insight was impact. From his very first poster, we see less text with simple, bold backgrounds and a strikingly clear message, maybe reflecting the turbulent political movements brewing at the time. They definitely offer a sumptuous hint at the artist he will become. Then we get World War I, and governments step in all over the world with the greatest recruiting and propaganda campaign in history. Men marched to war, inspired partly by poster slogans. While some of these designs maybe took a step back creatively, others became iconic, and posters were everywhere. From big cities to small towns, the poster was a cultural force. The post-war posters welcomed Art Deco as their dominant design influence. Maybe as a rebuke to the severity of the war years, Art Deco was glamorous and sophisticated. It promised a brave new world. And with its simple imagery and bold text, this period really defined the visual vocabulary we still recognize today. We can see it in the world fairs of the 1930s, in the government posters of the Second.
That's a famous poster. This one, Rosie the Riveter. This one, we can do it.
World War, from every country, even those who were suppressing artists. We see this style evolve in the 50s with softer color palettes, but we can find the influence of Leonetto Cappiello and Art Deco in essentially every great poster since, from all the movies and movie posters that you love to advertising campaigns. Our posters pay homage to this vocabulary with our own recipe of ideas. For the text, we draw inspiration from both Art Deco and also Bauhaus, its progeny. And we celebrate all these ideas, whether the colors are inspired by Cappiello or the likes of Patrick Caulfield. There is both a clarity and a joy in this design style. And I love the commissions to make these, transforming a favorite walk, a holiday destination, maybe a favorite hobby, are really any treasured memory into a piece of art. Venerating our memories is a way of both reliving them and connecting more deeply to them. I hope you like our work and you like this video. If so, please
Also,
like this video.
also see this.
Our memories, really any treasured memory into a piece of art.
Also, the style on the cover of New Yorker magazine.
Venerating our memories is a way of both reliving them and connecting more deeply to them. I hope you like our work and you like this video. If so, please subscribe for more interesting.
So yeah, for over 125, 140 years, posters have a major influence on people's expectations and as advertising, as creating this dream world of entertainment or holidays or music. And it's mass produced. So, that's the other thing, art for the masses. More about French posters.
This was a period that was really the golden age of poster making in France. These colorful posters were so visually appealing that collectors soon wanted them for their own. And so Jules Cheret, who was a master poster artist himself and a great printmaker, realized that there was a market for a smaller version of these. So most of the posters or the prints in this exhibition are from a series that he created called The Masters of the Poster to appeal to that market. Cheret was one of the most popular poster designers, and all of his posters employ very similar figures. They're all populated with these wonderful, lively, vivacious female figures, all featuring this wonderful smile, always very light, active movement. Sometimes it looks like they're standing on their tiptoes. They're so vibrant.
The color lithographs from Cheret's Masters of the Poster series are complemented nicely by the original works in the exhibition from Leonetto Cappiello. Cappiello is seen as the heir apparent to Jules Cheret and Toulouse-Lautrec in the French poster world. He's also seen by many as the father of modern advertising. Cappiello is known for broad, flat planes of color, simplifying compositions so that passers-by in the streets of Paris would see a singular image, and that image would forever be associated with that product. For instance, in this exhibition we have a poster for goose liver pâté, or as the poster says, the golden goose. People on the street in Paris would see this poster and always have that image in their mind whenever they thought of pâté, or the golden goose pâté in particular. His approach really set the stage for advertising on into the 40s, 50s, 60s, and today.
French posters were used to advertise everything from alcohol to makeup. This is a design done by Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec for a performance by one of the famous can-can dancers of the day, Jean Avril. But what's so fabulous about this design is the figure in the foreground. You have this truncated image of the pegboard and the neck of a bass viol, and it continues on creating a frame around the entire composition. He places you in the orchestra pit. You are a member of the audience looking up on stage watching her dance. The prints in this show were created with a process called color lithography. And lithography is a printmaking technique that's based on the concept that water and oil repel each other. So an artist would take a large porous stone, kind of like limestone, that had a very smooth surface, and they would draw the image directly on it with a greasy crayon or an oil-based ink. He would then coat the stone with water, which would be repelled by the drawing but would be absorbed by the stone. When he comes back with his printing ink, which is also oil-based, it sticks only to the areas where he originally drew his design.
This poster by two brothers-in-law show the variety with which designers and artists of the day approached their craft. Rather than going through a large process of lithography or sort of overwrought design, the Beggerstaffs used paper maquettes to create this poster. The flat design, the simplicity, the broad colors that they use kind of set them apart. It kind of takes on sort of a dark, deep character with the simple forms that they created using the paper maquettes.
For color lithography, multiple stones are needed. For every single color that you see in a composition, they had to create a separate stone. This is one of my favorite from the show. Even though it looks like there are 4 colors involved here with the white and the black, the yellow, and kind of this greenish gray, if you look closely, it's really only comprised of 2 different colors. We have a black stone that would be the dark silhouetted forms that you see, and obviously a yellow stone. But the white is actually a negative space. It's not printed at all. It's the white of the paper. And the kind of greenish grays are formed by thin parallel lines of black printed ink that are printed over the yellow. So your eye blends that to create a 4th color.
The prints in this exhibition occupy a very particular space in the history of the Speed's collection. While the majority of the objects in our permanent collection were given to the Speed by individuals or organizations, these prints were given to the Speed by an entire country. In 1947, after World War II had ravaged much of continental Europe, a noted publicist in Washington, D.C. issued a call across the country to gather money, food, and other necessary items to send to the people of France and Italy. The following year, the French people returned the gesture. A French railroad worker, André Picard, started a train across the country of France and collected these gifts from millions and millions of families. The resultant gift totaled 52,000 objects and filled 49 boxcars. Kentucky's boxcar arrived in Frankfurt in February of 1949. The gifts were on display at the Kentucky Historical Society in Frankfurt before traveling to Louisville, where the Speed hosted an exhibition of the objects. The posters have been in the Speed's collection since 1949, and we're so pleased to be able to show them here at Local Speed.
I hope you enjoy this amazing exhibition, The Art of the Street. I want to thank my staff, Kim and Bradley, who did an amazing job to present.
Speed Art Museum. All right, so let's look at yellow posters. See if this one's any good. I'm just doing this on the influence of modern advertising. And then first of all, they all make you feel good. Everyone's happy, and tying them in with freedom and animal energy, the product that they're selling, linking the two, and spontaneity, and yeah. What's the connection? Also just creating a beautiful, colorful image, art, it's the viewer associates this beautiful art and beautiful color and striking color with the product. Middle. I'll watch all of these. See if this. An influence. Light bulb. All right, so name to remember, Leonetto Capiello. So has anyone heard of the Spanish festival that happens in Seville every year in April? It's called La Feria Diabril. I had never heard of it. I was in 2013, I was in Spain for 3 months, and I had arranged to stay in Seville for a month at an Airbnb. And I didn't know about the festival. I hadn't researched it and what was going on with it. I just lucked out in a way, or unfortunately, I arrived on the last day of the festival. I think it goes on for a week or 10 days. And so it was still in effect, but also they were starting to tear it down. So I just want to show you a few short videos about the festival, because it's going to lead into this amazing, incredible, every year they have an annual official poster. And these posters go back over 100 years now. So I just watched a little bit about the festival to give you a feel for it. And I got kind of walked into the middle of it at the very end.
It's no surprise that Sevilla is also famous for letting loose in vibrant festivals. And we're here for the biggest of all, the April Fair. For 7 days each April, it seems much of Sevilla is packed into its vast fairgrounds. The fair feels friendly, spontaneous, very real. The Andalusian...
The women wear all these really fancy, colorful, frilly, flowery dresses in their hair. And the men, dressed in old traditional macho Spanish.
Passion for horses, flamenco.
Seville, by the way, is ground zero for flamenco. That's where you go. If you want to learn flamenco, you go to Seville, and the clubs there. And then, there's one flamenco for the tourists, and then there's local flamenco. And I went to a few of those. They're amazing. It's a wonderful city. I really love Seville. It's like the way you imagine Spain, the essence of Spain.
And Sherry is clear. Riders are ramrod straight, colorfully clad senoritas ride side saddle, and everyone's drinking sherry spritzers. Women sport outlandish dresses that would look clownish all alone, but somehow brilliant here in mass. Over 1,000 private party tents, or casetas, line the lanes. Each striped tent is a private party zone of a family, club, or association. To get in, you need to know someone in the group, or make friends quickly. Concepcion's well connected, and as a friend of a friend, we're in.
My caseta. No,
This is your caseta?
esta es la caseta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of this exclusivity, it has a real family affair feeling. Everyone seems to know everyone in what seems like 1,000 wedding parties being celebrated all at the same time.
That's one of them.
Si usted no ha visto la feria, yo se la voy a enseñar. Yo se la voy a enseñar. Si usted no ha visto la feria, yo se la voy a enseñar. Si usted no ha visto la feria, yo se la voy a enseñar. Yo se la voy a enseñar. Debajo de la portada nos podemos encontrar. Debajo de la portada nos podemos encontrar. Y usted verá la hermosura, el embrujo y el salero. Y usted verá la hermosura y le dirá al mundo entero como esta feria ninguna. El paseo de caballo, mañana de rumbo y sol. Mañana de rumbo y sol. El paseo de caballo, mañana de rumbo y sol. El paseo de caballo, mañana de rumbo y sol. Mañana de rumbo y sol. Ver Amazona tan guapa que en ninguna parte vio. Ver Amazona tan guapa que en ninguna parte vio. Y usted verá la hermosura, el embrujo y el salero. Y usted verá la hermosura y le dirá al mundo entero como esta feria ninguna.
And this is this year's, a couple months ago. Brief thing about April 2022.
Ya fue la feria, que ole, ya fue la feria. Ya fue la feria, Sevilla en primavera, que ole, ya fue la feria. Sevilla en primavera, que ole, ya fue la feria. Ya fue la feria y se ponen alegre, que ole la gente seria. Y se ponen alegre, que ole la gente seria. Gloria bendita, Sevilla primavera, ole, gloria bendita, Sevilla primavera, que ole la pena quita. Que está bailando, que ole, que está bailando. Que está bailando esa niña que baila, que ole, que está bailando. Esa niña que baila, que ole, que está bailando. Que está bailando, no deja de mirarme, mirarme, me está mirando. No deja de mirarme, mirarme, me está mirando. Y tu mirada son puñales de muerte, ole, y tu mirada son puñales de muerte que se me clava. Tienen salero, que ole, tienen salero. Tienen salero, la gente de mi tierra, que ole, tienen salero. La gente de mi tierra, que ole, tienen salero. Tienen salero y derraman su gracia, que ole al mundo entero. Y derraman su gracia, que ole al mundo entero. Gloria bendita, Sevilla primavera, ole, gloria bendita, Sevilla primavera, que ole la pena quita.
All right, that gives you kind of feel for the event. One of the reasons I was disappointed to get there earlier is just the number of beautiful women. There's something about this area of Spain that's noted for the beauty of the woman, the high cheekbones, the black hair. And I've got a thing for Spanish women, and it's like, that was like ground zero for that. So yeah. So all right. So what I was saying is, then every year there's a poster. If there's an official festival poster, and it goes, back to, I don't know when they started, probably early turn of the 20th century. So here's, let's look at them. There's a place, this redbubble.com, that sells posters, that specializes in also in these posters. I love them. I just think they're amazing. It's my favorite posters. So we'll look through some of these. And then, they'll have the year, like this is, I click on this, gets bigger. Yeah, there you go. So this was 1961. (1946). I just think the artists are amazing. They capture the energy, the feel of the event, the movement, the action, beautiful colors. I like this one. there any comments to make on any of this? Feel free to.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Look at the colors, look at the way the night sky, the night buildings, and this brilliant yellow and orange. I was looking for this year's, but I couldn't find it.
Where is the running of the bulls? Pamplona, where is that?
Uh, Good question. That's somewhere in the south. I'm not sure how close that is to Seville. I can't picture it where it is geographically.
There should be some posters for that.
Yeah.
For sure. Bloody posters.
Yeah, we don't know. I want to look at this.
Yeah, Pamplona is in northeast
Oh,
Spain.
the northeast, okay.
Northeast.
Yeah.
No, it's like that. There you go. So this is Redbubble. It's like they got all of them for all through the years.
What's that one, Joe? It looks like a magi or something.
Where
That one with the blue in the sky.
this one?
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
That's more of a photograph, I think. I don't think that's an official festival poster. It's a photograph.
Did they really eat late at night, like 9, 10 o'clock?
Oh yeah, that's what they do. But the evening doesn't start till 9 or 10 o'clock. But it's interesting. Each of those tents is a family collective, and you can't go in unless you're part of that family, extended family, or you're invited, special guest. This is 1959. So I've always loved these. But I mean, I had seen a few before, but then when I stumbled onto the festival and saw some of the posters, and I just started looking them up. Just enjoy looking at them now and again. Reminds me of being there. This one, there's one from the 1919 poster I really like.
So
This one of my favorites. I think because I play guitar, but yeah, I think that's a gorgeous one. 1990.
yeah.
All right, so I just want to introduce you to that, to the festival, to the posters that go with it. Moving on, United States. Oh, I missed this French. There's another French poster designer. I forgot. Mucha, his name is. Should have shown him before the Seville. That's okay. Mucha. Well, they didn't mention him in those other introductory to French poster art. But his are amazing. Alphonse Mucha. Very much Art Deco. Art Nouveau.
They look so familiar, like I've seen them all the time, I guess, because they've been around, or the style probably.
Yeah. Right. That's still, I mean, the style is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Mucha, the other one. So that leads up to a man named Victor Moscoso. Anybody ever hear of him? You've probably seen his did album covers in the 60s. Considered one of the masters of the 60s type psychedelic art. So I spent a little time with him, and he's Spanish. He was born in Spain, so he was exposed to this tradition in French and Spanish art that he brought into the American culture of the 60s. Let's see, where do I want to start with him? Well, we'll start with the Wikipedia entry.
Let's go. So.
Spanish-American artist, best known for producing psychedelic rock posters, advertisements, and underground comics in the Bay Area. That's where, in the 60s, during the 60s and 70s. He was the first of the rock poster artists of the 60s era with formal academic training and experience. He was the first of the rock poster artists to use photographic collage in many of his posters. Okay. He was born in Galicia, and then up in New Jersey, yes. He was influenced by the German painter Joseph Albers, who was one of his teachers at Yale. And, professional success came in the form of the psychedelic rock and roll poster art created for San Francisco and Denver dance halls and clubs. Moscoso's posters for the Family Dog dance concerts at the Avalon Ballroom and his Neon Rose posters for the Matrix resulted in international attention during the 1967 Summer of Love. From September to December 67, his psychedelic posters done for Chet Helms' Family Dog Denver further extended his accomplishments and recognition. His poster work includes album covers for Jerry Garcia, I guess Grateful Dead, Bob Weir, Herbie Hancock, Joe Davis, David Grisman, and others. Okay. Yeah. So. I think this is him talking. He's a bit irreverent, as you would expect. Oh no, that's not the one.
Let's go. So.
Let's look at some of his works anyway. Come on, look.
So.
See, that's large. I'm getting it. Junior Wells. Yeah. Look at what he's doing with the script, the words. What he's saying is usually part of the art. As you see here, it just blends into this and kind of gives that. The poster itself gives like a second, like you're on acid. I'm looking at an object. Okay.
So that's a poster, not an album cover, because it's not the shape of an
Yeah,
album cover.
The poster. So
Can
it's
you
posted.
Okay.
spotlight it to make it bigger?
I can't make it any bigger because it
Oh,
goes
okay.
how limited. Whoops. Don't want to make it smaller, do I? Okay. Go back to, I lost that. What happens when I start fooling around? It's just, okay. Miller Blues Band. These could be album covers, you know. Quicksilver Messenger Service. I saw them play in San Francisco area. I remember this album cover too. But the kind of the colors, the movement, you can see how he brought his Spanish tradition, I think, is into this psychedelic world. Sphinx dance. The Doors, Sparrow, Country Joe and the Fish. Some of these are posters for concerts.
Oh.
This looks like it must be because there's several groups. But his trademark is that you got to really look at the words itself. They jump out at you, and yet they don't jump out at you. You got to say, well, what's it saying? All right. And then let's see. This one he's talking. Oh, here it is. This is him. He's still alive. Probably in his 80s.
Gee, I like to draw. I think I'll be an artist. Little did I know how little they got paid. I'd been working as a commercial artist. It was the worst job. I said, I can't do this shit. I gotta get out of here. And the only way I could see getting out of this was by getting more craft. So I went to Cooper Union. After the war, all these great artists had come to the United States. I should send Hitler a postcard saying, thanks, asshole. Because of you, I get to study with Joseph Albers. He taught me color. I graduated from Yale just before Vietnam. I got called to go to my draft. That afternoon, I enrolled at the San Francisco Art Institute. San Francisco became the commercial art capital of the world. My contemporaries. First I copied them, then they copied me. I finally got in the game. Posters are starting to get sold. To the next one, to the next one. Power. Power to do whatever the fuck I wanted to. Do not use illegible lettering. The purpose of lettering is to communicate. Do not use vibrating colors. They are irritating to the eye. A poster should transmit its message quickly and simply.
He's violating all these do's and do nots.
Neon Rose was my company. I didn't want to be dependent on anybody else. I will print as many posters as I feel like it. It will be my copyright. I mean, it takes organization, it takes a certain kind of thinking. You know, there's money for craft. Every scene gets ruined. The Summer of Love killed it. Too many people. The scene dried up. About 60 posters in 1 year to a couple of posters. Zap came about because of Crump, along with Wilson, Griffin, and myself. Comics Code Authority, state control over art. Do not show a policeman creating a crime. Do not show nipples. Do not show this. Do not show that. Fucking every one of those we broke. The highlight, 50,000 copies of an artist-owned publication. Ah, those were the days. Eventually, we'll all fade away. But, based on sales, my reputation would rest on posters, comics, and maybe paintings. I think somebody should do a paper on cannabis as a creative stimulant. Now, that's the paper I would write. How are you going to know what's on the other side of the world, man, if you don't go there?
All right, let's go. So I got a couple more things here.
I grew up in the Bronx. It seemed like paradise. You could go to school free, your parents could make a living. You felt that no dream was unavailable. I really believed that I could do anything I wished.
Welcome to Cam Look, coming to you from the Cincinnati Art Museum, where every day at 10 a.m. we share an object from the permanent collection and bring questions for discussion. I'm Julie, a Cam docent. Today I'd like to share this poster by graphic artist Victor Moscoso, entitled Poster Show. It's an offset lithographic print that promoted an exhibition of rock concert posters, which was held in Dallas, Texas, in 1967. As we study Moscoso's work, you may need to grab your shades because, in the words of the artist, the musicians were turning up their amplifiers to the point where they were blowing out your eardrums. I did the equivalent with the eyeballs. Look closely among the stylized flowers for the words Poster Show, beginning October 2nd, Neiman Marcus Exhibition Hall, Dallas, North Park. Between 1965 and 1967, there was a convergence of young people on the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco. They adopted an idealistic, experimental, turn on, tune in, drop out lifestyle, centering on rock music and hallucinogenic drugs with a touch of Eastern philosophy. Can you pick out the yin-yang symbol in this poster? What does that mean to you in this context? With their hand-drawn, almost illegible wavy letter forms, trippy psychedelic colors, and appropriated images, the rock posters were unconventional design for an unconventional audience. This iconic 1967 poster in our collection, also by Victor Moscoso, is advertising the Chamber Brothers at the Matrix, and it's a good example of the kind of art that was exhibited at the poster show in Dallas. As an aside, you might notice the sly visual reference to this poster in the promotional graphics for the 2000 movie Almost Famous. Born in Spain in 1936 and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Moscoso attended the Cooper Union Art School and Yale University School of Art. At Yale, he studied under Joseph Albers, whose color theories were an important influence. In 1959, he came to San Francisco to attend the Art Institute and later taught there. So Moscoso was well aware of the traditional norms of graphic design, all the rules, enough to purposely break them all. He made lettering hard to read. He juxtaposed colors to vibrate in the eye. He discarded the notion that posters should transmit messages quickly and said that a poster should hang you up as long as possible. Similar to the explosion of advertising posters by artists such as Jules Cheret, Alphonse Mucha, and Toulouse-Lautrec for the Paris cabarets at the turn of the 20th century, advertising posters by Victor Moscoso and other artists for San Francisco concert venues almost 70 years later often reference the stylized natural forms of Art Nouveau. Can you spot any similarities to Poster Show in this 1899 poster by Mucha that's also in our collection? I love the cosmic feel of Poster Show, the infinite landscape of flowers and the mysterious floating planet. Did the planet emerge from the flower field, or is it about to land, or will it float above the horizon through eternity? What does that mean? Whatever we make of it, it's far out. Peace.
Peter Max. Let's start him. Remember Peter Max?
This morning, an artist whose work has been seen by more than 1 billion people is getting ready for a new year of shows. Michelle Miller spent some time with the painter who's always taking pop culture to the max. Happy New Year's and good morning, Michelle.
Happy New Year. Well, Peter Max rose to fame in the 1960s with his psychedelic figures and vibrant colors. To this day, he remains a star of the art world and a painter whose life and career are as colorful as one of his canvases. So this is where the magic happens.
This is where it happens.
For 50 years, artist Peter Max has been a mainstay on the American art scene, churning out thousands of works on just about every surface. Canvases, stages, airplanes. All of these are originals.
Yeah, these are all painted. So what I'm going to do today is I wanted to sign them.
Each Peter Max original bears his unique signature, though it might be argued that his true signature is color. So with a piece like this, does Ringo call you up and say, hey, I want a colorful piano? When Beatles drummer Ringo Starr wanted to customize his Baldwin piano, he mailed one to Peter Max.
And I figured, let me do this is going to be red. This I'll do in peach. This maybe in pink. And then I started painting it. So now Baldwin was so excited that I did a nice piano for Ringo. About 4 days later, I get the same crate again. I started returning the crate. We open up, it's another black piano. And I see a note in there that they wanted me to have a piano. So I was thrilled. I painted mine slightly different colors.
Pianos aside, Max has painted a fair share of portraits for the rich and famous, from movie stars to rock stars to presidents. Do you have to like the person that you paint?
Well, I don't think I painted anybody that I don't like. But, you know, I like people in general, so I paint them. So when I did Mick Jagger, it was fun to paint. I even like the Statue of Liberty, and I like her, and we never spoke.
What is it that has allowed Peter Max, now 77, to stay relevant for half a century? Asking him is useless.
I don't even think about maintaining a relevance. I just think about, what do I want to paint? What am I going to do now? What am I going to do later? I just love the moment.
You could spot Peter Max from 3 galleries away.
So we asked art historian Charles A. Riley to join us at Rowe Gallery in New York with its large collection of Peter Max works.
I think he's got his pulse on what is current. He takes what's going on right now, and like a really good journalist, he spins on a dime and turns it into art.
Riley says Max's legacy is already being felt even as he continues to build it.
What are some of the places that you can see the Peter Max influence and not necessarily recognize it?
He's become, you know, an element, shall we say, or a building block of things like Instagram and Photoshop. Just think about the way that people, you know, doctor the photos on their Facebook page. Take the image, do something with it. And what he does with it, of course, is he boosts the color, he makes it glow in this kind of iconic way. That's everywhere now.
Max insists in his own yoga cool style that he doesn't think about things like legacy.
How do you want to be remembered?
Some people remember me for my color, some people remember me as a friend, you know, different, whatever.
And I will remember him always. I interviewed him back in 1999, and he carries around these 2x2 cards, and he picks one up and he starts drawing something on it. And look at this amazing picture he drew back then. It was the year I got married, me and my husband, and I thought that was so incredibly generous for an artist. And he did it not only for me, but the cameraman, anyone he came into contact with. It was just such a lovely notice, I thought.
Psalm 6, Peter Max, Love Parts, 15 minutes. I don't want to spend that much time. So it's actually 2 minutes.
They were a gift to my youngest son from my mother in about 1969 or 70. And he had them all over his room all through high school and college.
Peter Max was one of the most famous, most popular of the psychedelic artists. But back in the 1960s, in sort of the twilight of the hippie era, his work was very, very mainstream, and it was loved by people really all over the world, certainly in America, coast to coast. And his designs are noted for their psychedelic, their trippy, their colorfulness, their quirkiness, their fancifulness. They sort of captured the times and captured the hearts of people who could watch them. They're all dated 1969, and they're all numbered in the lower right-hand corner. And here we have numbers 1, 2, and 4. We're missing number 3, which you also have, but I think your son covered them with a lot of stickers at some point. On this copy here, we can actually see some other stickers. And while at first glance they may look like part of the design themselves, they're not. They were applied at a later date. Now, on today's market, they actually have some considerable value. Starting closest to me, I think a good auction estimate for this piece is between $300 and $400. Moving on to the middle, I think an auction estimate for that would be between $400 and $600. The difference in price largely is because this one has the stickers on it, so it makes it worth a little bit less. The one next to you is the most valuable one, and at auction I would estimate it between $800 and $1,200.
Very nice.
All right. Anybody remember Peter Max? It's good to hear that he's still painting. He's still out of it. You know, nobody remembers Peter Max from the 60s?
I do.
I do. I do.
I do.
That's good.
We all do.
Okay, so lastly, before moving on to 50 posters that rock the world. Here, this is a Xerox website. I stumbled on this. Can't get them full screen. I kind of get them somewhat large. 50 posters that rock the world.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what I can do. Go a little bit larger. Nope. See, that's small. Look at that. No, it just doesn't want to work there. That's the best I can do. So Moulin Rouge, Charest, I mentioned him. Stop. Lost. Shot Noir. The first modern cabaret opened its doors Paris 1981. This guy, this priester. So the just gave what he was doing in a much simpler design compositions. Pate's Baroni. Oh, it's good. This is a Capiello, right? Okay. Who we looked at. Capiello is often called the father of modern advertising. Books.
Like you.
I Want You, the famous one. This was J.M. Flagg. He's the man who drew this. He used his own face as a model for Uncle Sam. I didn't know that.
Want You.
Lord Kitchener Want You, they were imitating. I like the American one better.
Yeah.
Keep Calm and Carry On, very British there. And there it is, Rosie the Riveter. That's a classic. When women were in factories making, weapons. And famous Santa Claus Coca-Cola. It's in 1931. It's illustrated by Hadon Sundblom. That's a great one. Metropolis. Well, this poster sold for $690,000. The highest price in 2005. Wow. So it is Dussel Alexander designed a series of prints about national parks, cabaret. Motherland Call, Soviet propaganda poster. This is a famous one in Normandy. Vertigo for the film. Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. I looked this up. This is an actual movie. It's like one of the worst horror movies ever made. This woman grows to be 50 foot and she gets revenge on the men who have hurt her. Jaws, the famous Jaws poster.
Peace.
Peace one. Gerard Holton for the British nuclear disarmament. Guinness Toucan. The man. Sweet Corn Festival. Steve Freikom's designs began life as internal posters. These pretty screen prints. The famous J poster, Che Guevara. It's one of the most famous posters of all time. High Noon. 72 Summer Olympics, Labors and Working. Tiffany's. This famous Dylan album cover, designed by Milton Glasser. It was inspired by Marcel Duchamp's self-portrait. Rumble in the Jungle, the famous Muhammad Ali George Foreman fight in Zaire, one of the great fights of all time. Farrah Fawcett, everyone. If you were a boy in the 70s, chances are Farrah Fawcett graced your bedroom wall. She didn't mind, but in the famous E.T. poster, pregnant man, got milk, live aid. AIDS. Some people are gay.
Get over it.
On hate.
4, 3, 3, yeah.
It's a famous Obama poster. Dumb ways to die. Is it Mars? Brother Dumb. All right. So this is kind of a fun detour into poster art there. We're going 310. So Paul Klee. So for the Wikipedia entry.
Shot.
Wow. 1879, 1940, Swiss Parliament, German artist. Boy, he had a serious look there in that photo. His highly individual style was influenced by movements in art that included expressionism, cubism, surrealism. As a natural draftsman, but color theory, he really studied color theory. So you'll see that the way he put colors together was masterly. He had a great sense of humor and wit that comes through. I won't go through all his early training, but look at his influence. He was inventive with his methods like he used oil paint, watercolor, ink, pastel, etching. He would use various materials: canvas, burlap, muslin, linen, gauze, cardboard, metal foil, wallpaper, newsprint, etc. Spray paint, various ways of applying it. Okay, so he often used grid format, composition, and geometric forms, letters, numbers. He was a musician himself. He frequently alluded to poetry, music, and dreams in his work. Musical appear. I'm just gonna sampling through these. Puppets. Death and fire.
Yeah.
What is missing?
The old masters had secretive image projecting devices to help them draw faster and better. So hundreds of years later, why don't
Welcome to Tate Modern and to the world of Swiss-German artist Paul Klee. Known for his impish humour, luminous colours, and most of all, the incredible variety of his paintings, which are somehow unmistakably his. Paintings, drawings, watercolours brought together from collections all over the world, from 1914 to right up at the end of his life. Paul Klee was born in 1879 near Bern. He trained as a violinist and had been struggling to find his style as a painter. Then, on a trip to Tunisia in 1914, he had an epiphany. The light startled him and transformed his art. He started to use rectangles as a basic building block, which he combined like musical notes to create a harmony of colours. Klee believed that every colour evoked a different emotional response in people, and he approached his colour palette like you would a musical key. He then composed his paintings like you would a symphony, and you can see how he's done it here with these beautiful, rich hues which he's carefully placed like musical notes. And again, the high notes, these little flashes of yellow here, and the beautiful rich blue. I think this is why Klee became an abstract painter. He felt that colour alone was all that the painting needed. For Klee, the 1920s was a time of intense productivity. He was invited to teach with his lifelong friend Wassily Kandinsky at the Bauhaus School, a hotbed of modernist design in Germany. Living on campus together, they attracted international acclaim, and there, Klee produced half his life's work in just 10 years. I really love this work. It's called Ghost of a Genius, and like a lot of his works, Klee gives you a clue of what to make of it in the title. I think it's really sweet, the idea of this lost genius wandering through the wilderness, this huge inflated head. And he looks really lonely. I think it's very sweet. The 1930s shattered Klee's world. His art was decried degenerate by the Nazis, and he was dismissed from his job. Seeking refuge in Switzerland, his paintings of this time reflect the sombre turn of European events. Lines turn to black bars, the scale larger, the colours bleaker. This is a much later work, and as you can see, the style is completely different. The colours are much duller and the lines thicker and heavier. It's called Outbreak of Fear 3, and it's painted in 1939 when Klee was in a very late stage of his illness. And I think it was a time of fear, and for me this painting is really about that cold, hard feeling in the pit of your stomach, of fear itself. Paul Klee lived in an age of oppressive conservatism, but continued to paint in his own way, with music, colour and laughter. This huge exhibition captures the spirit of this extraordinary man and is on until March 2014.
So, good abstract.
14.
These fanciful figures in many of his drawings and paintings. Are the animals, or the humans, or a mixture of both? Just very playful, childlike. There's one, the twittering machine. There's more history analysis of it. Good example of his playfulness and wit.
This is Steven Zucker.
And Juliana Krynick.
And we're talking about Twittering Machine by Paul Klee.
Or Zwischenmaschine.
So this is one of my favorite works by Klee, and I think many people's. It's perhaps, for me, one of the most fanciful, one of the most playful works of art I can think of.
These little figures, which to me they look like half bird-like creature, half puppet, half doll, even though you can't have three halves. They have these different faces where you can see details if you look really closely. Each of them has a sense of individuality, but they all seem a little bit mischievous
right?
is the perfect word. They seem mischievous and about to do something. And, it's funny because I look at the characters and then I'm thinking, what's the twittering machine?
Well, he's exposed for us this wonderful kind of mechanical object. It's drawn in the simplest pen and ink on a kind of watercolor
I was
wash.
thinking maybe like birds twittering and what birds do. And there's the handle, and these are his imaginary birds. And the machinist, you just crank the handle and the birds twitter like they're on a branch.
Really subtle and lovely, but not too finished and still quite sort of open. But there's this fabulous kind of invitation for the viewer to somehow reach in and to turn that handle and to bring this to life.
You know what I'm just thinking of? And I'm thinking of this because clay is Swiss, and I'm thinking of this because it's turning and then there's birds. I'm thinking of a cuckoo clock.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right.
Do you think he was maybe creating this sort of inner workings of the cuckoo clock deconstructed and sort of turned on its head?
I think so, absolutely.
Like the birds have been
but
freed.
But here they are freed, because this is not about the mechanics of time. It's not about the structure of time at all. This is a kind of human-powered machine. We have to reach in to bring this thing to life. And if it was brought to life, you get a sense of the chaos of these birds, which is completely at odds with the notion of the precision, of the Swiss
clock.
of the Swiss
Absolutely, it doesn't have that kind of precision at all. It's not that kind of machine. It's a machine of frivolity.
Look at the way he's done it, because when you look at, for instance, the shapes that come out of each of the mouths or the beaks of these birds.
Yeah, they definitely have a beak-like quality.
They do. Those are different shapes, and they become almost visual signs. They become notations of the sounds that you can imagine they would be making. It would be a fracas. It would be a kind of cacophony, but each with a distinct kind of tone.
So this second figure from right with this spiral, I feel like he would make sort of a boing, boing, boing sound.
Maybe
like
so.
up and down and up
a
and down.
spring-like sound.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And some of the others would just sort of be like, wah, wah, wah. I mean, you could sort of imagine all of those things happening all at once as soon as anyone starts to turn the handle.
I think that's right. And you could also imagine sort of the chaos visually of how this would look. If you turn the handle, because each bird is perched on a wire that sort of arcs in space, you can get the sense of them balancing up and down and sort of gyrating, and maybe that almost bow tie like double
they must
triangle
rotate around
that would spin.
It
Exactly.
would spin around.
Exactly
so you
right.
turn it up, and then the whole thing sort of spins around that axis.
So what Klee has done, and it's just incredible, it's brilliant, is in an ecstatic, frozen drawing, he's been able to evoke sound and energy and motion, and also an invitation for us to somehow power the entire image, as a viewer so often really does.
It really calls for us to interact with it, and it calls for us to play with it. I mean, it seems like it's just an invitation to have fun.
Now, that's so interesting, because Klee is at the Bauhaus for a year now, and so often when we think of the Bauhaus, we think of something that's slightly dour, something a little
Very
serious.
I think it's very serious. I mean, I think that they certainly had a lot of fun, but even their fun was serious. Like, we must make new things, and we must have new parties, and we must, find new ways to make trouble.
And yet, Klee seems to be making trouble in just a simply and wonderfully playful way here.
This is one of his famous. This one, very famous painting. Night fisherman. You see how it goes to black, but if you were standing there, you would see that there's a grid behind with blues, browns, blacks. Probably continues all the way subtly behind. It's like totally outside of the traditional Western art. It's more African in a way, or Aboriginal.
Klee's one of the towering figures of the 20th century. It's easy to see pieces of his work, to think about the line drawing, or to think about the works that are simply abstract. But what we've tried to do by arranging things chronologically is to show that he is incredibly various at any one moment. Klee made this work while he was a soldier in the German army. He was a German national, even though he'd been born in Switzerland. Although Klee seems to be rather withdrawn from the terror of the First World War, I think this painting does reflect some of that chaotic experience. So you see the zigzaggy lines that pour in from all sides, and they surround sequences of fragmented heads. And at the centre right here, pretty much certainly a self-portrait of Klee. It's a self-portrait, but it's also capturing a critical moment in the history of Germany at that time, but through an abstract language. Just after the First World War, he emerges in Germany as the key artist of that generation. Well, this is a sort of redemptive moment for art in Germany. They could move beyond the destruction of the war and look at modernism in a new way. One of the things we wanted to capture in the exhibition is how his work is extraordinarily various, and that's shown in these two paintings. This painting seems to be something like a still life. They look like sort of checkerboards. We know those come from seed pods and from the way in which leaves grow up stems. Almost a set of objects laid out on the table. We know that this is 1923, number 79. Number 80 is this work behind me. You can really see the contrast in the ways he's working. It appears to be a sort of random arrangement of blocks of colour, but when you really start to look closely at it, you can see that it fits into big planes. And the critical area is this small blue rectangle. If you extend the side of each of the sides of the blue, it triggers the whole structure of the composition. The importance of 1923 is that he's developing modes of abstraction in totally revolutionary ways, but in rather extraordinary circumstances, a moment of total meltdown in the German economy, for instance. And Klee and his colleagues are working in this rather idealistic way, trying to form a new society that extends beyond the immediate circumstances they find themselves in. But that comes at a moment just prior to the rise of Nazism in Germany. And in 1933, basically, everything goes wrong. Here we are right at the end of Klee's career. The cultural world in which he'd been working in Germany had closed down. The people he knew were dispersed around the world. After returning to Switzerland, he fell very ill, and his illness was restricting his movement, and yet this is probably the biggest work he ever made in his life. So there's an extraordinary sort of defiance in the way that Klee's setting about making this work. It's the most uplifting of works, it seems to me. He seems to be opening up avenues rather than closing them down. It's these sorts of works that became the stimulus for all sorts of other artists. People like Mark Rothko or Victor Pasmore in London. Klee had this extraordinary influence through literally the life and death struggle of his last couple of years of painting.
look at them with the arts in his collection. I can get rid of this if I download it. All right, got that. Let's go back to this. Hopefully that's, we can now read the times. And some of his works are just using pointillism, just like pixels of color. Persian nightingale. City of churches. So what he's done is, it's like if it's, I don't know if this is watercolor or what, but it looks like, you know, he lays down the areas of color first, and then does the line drawings later on top of those, of the color fields. So that it's, so that he's not, it gives it this kind of unique architectural look where it's not literal. It's just like not copying something from the street that you would see. It's imaginative recreation. And it's like the way images are held in your mind. You know, it's not, it's like a collage of impressions. Flower myth. You would often do this kind of look like a, it almost look like a stained glass writing. Lettering. Asian entertainers. Cosmic composition. So he's not perceiving the world or his perceiving what he wants to create through his adult rational mind. Something like that. It's definitely the mind of a child with technical skills. Full moon. Bad band. Huh. Before the snow. New Angel. Wow, there's Barton. Buildings here. Implied doorway. Building, street. There's very little green, no suggestions of green. There's all warm colors. These, all these are stems, all over, set in an urban setting of some kind. It's all striated, all layers. Same thing here. I guess that's one of his trademarks. It's either geometric patterns or striated compositions, like rock layers, the land. Bell dance. A young lady's adventure. Some of them remind me of parquet wood, the art of creating scenes with out of carved wood, but you're creating it, you're carving the pieces and assembling them. They almost look like wood. Ooh, bird wandering off.
Somehow that one looked like American Indians.
Which one?
That one.
The bird wandering off?
No, that one.
This one?
Wasn't it clearer before?
Which one are you talking about?
I don't know. It just looks like, no, it was after that one. That one.
This one?
No, that one.
This picture, right?
Yes.
Don't,
It just looks like Southwestern to me.
Okay.
Maybe the colors and the mountains and almost the bottom designs of buildings. It just has that feeling to me.
Yeah, great.
But he was never here, right?
No.
Yeah. The colors, the warmth.
It was in Tunisia, and the colors, it could have been influenced by his visit to, like Matisse was greatly influenced by Tunisia. This looks like a pyramid.
Yeah. So this was painted when he was in Tunisia?
I don't know, but he was in Tunisia. This was after, must have been afterwards. Looks like a
Okay.
palm tree. That's what I'm guessing. It's a desert scene, but it was
Okay. Well, when I'm saying the American Southwest, that would be a desert scene.
but almost like it's spray painted. It's subtle.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how he applied the paint to get it.
That one fascinates me.
Yeah. So there's like some of them have like you look into a gauze. Yeah.
Or through sand. It's almost like a sand painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This bottom layer looks like gauze too, right down the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's a dream. It's almost like a dream image. Could mean, people are going to get different associations to it. It's very open-ended stairs, pyramids, a setting, sun, one tree suggested, mountains in the distance, and it just could be anything, you know. It's
Yeah.
like an invitation to, and this isn't this bird or fish, whatever the heck it is. Oh, there it is. It's a bird there. He's going this way. He's going out of the picture.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but it's yeah. Where's he going? What's he have to do with the scene? Where's he wandering off from? Did he just come down the steps?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
What's the name of that one?
Bird wandering off.
Huh. Okay.
Wandering off the canvas. Yeah. Great city picture with red and green accents. So these squares and triangles and rectangles, all carefully placed colors and arrangement, geometric patterns, well thought out, using complementary green and red mostly. Oh, crystal gradation. Okay. Wouldn't have known that was Paul Klee. Dream City. There's that kind of a vibration quality, like these are whatever they are. They're shimmering to me. It's like they're an electrical quality to it. Like they're lit up. Revolving house. Oh, 6 species. Huh. The Saint of Inner Light. Great title. Looks like some kind of a dream figure. Male, female at the same time. Tropical twilight. The witch scene. When if he was thinking of Macbeth. Woman's Pavilion. I guess this is the pavilion here. What makes it a woman's pavilion? I have no idea, but it's what he titled it.
Joe, are these all posters?
No. These are paintings. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, these are all paintings or watercolors. He didn't do posters. Yeah, I should have made that clear. Sorry. Bandit's head. That's kind of Picasso-esque. 1921. There's that one, Ghost of a Genius, that museum person spoke about. Yeah, there's this otherworldly lost quality to the person, alienated, giant head.
Ghost of a Genius.
Yeah. Analysis of diverse perversities. Right. He 9,000 works of art he left behind. Growth of the night plants. Red balloon. Huh. It seems to be both indoors and outdoors at the same time. Suggestion of a interior space, but then it opens up. Is that a ceiling or is that the sky? All rectangles and triangles, and then the one circular balloon. This is one of his famous ones. Senecchio. I don't know what the title comes from. Sounds like Pinocchio. I wonder if it's from an opera or something.
He was prolific, this guy.
He was, for sure.
He seemed to work in so many different styles. Was it at the same time, or are we seeing things sort of out of order?
No, I think it was at the same time. That came through in that one Tate shots thing. He said
Wow.
he would do one and something that's entirely different the next one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. I think this is all happening, you know,
at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
The twittering machine. It's something that's just totally impossible and just fun imagination. It's almost like a spider web, you know, it's going to have a nice delicate kind of lace work. What is this, a table down there? It's just not a table. It's held by one sand rod or whatever it is. Battle scene from the comic fantastic opera The Seafarer. Yeah, you can see these squares of color are continuing. It's not just black through the whole painting. Before the Blitz. Landscape with yellow birds, including an upside down one. Puppet theater. This is great. This could have been created by a 4-year-old, right? There's no time today. Maybe next time I'll show you the children's art from around the world. So similar. Things that our 6, 7-year-olds are doing. Rising star. Rope dancer, yeah. $17. Just being 17, something to do with moving forward, but sometimes critical adult presence here, holding you back, warning you. It's a smiley face here, the person, yeah. Yes. the singer L as Floridical Fury. Possessed girl. Well, glad of this thing come back, but jump ahead instead of going one at a time. Let's see how it's the way to jump. You all tell me how that works. Just pick up here. This is considered a masterpiece of pointillism. These tiny little squares, rectangles of color, all harmonizing, beautiful harmonies. This like a work piece of music. Reminds me a little bit of an abstract version of Greek, Egyptian hieroglyphics. It's like maybe the person's going into the underworld after there's rowers, there might be a shaman journey, 3 rowers and the shaman. All the boats here, they just kind of look like Egyptian boats on the Nile. That's unusual, him, one figure taking up the whole canvas. For the conversion. All right, guess this was 158. There's 212, but so yeah, he worked in a variety of styles. Just incredible imagination, working purely from his imagination. Really tapped into his inner child, that's for sure. But also, you know, commenting on the world, his feeling states, or commenting on the world. He just done it in a really totally original way. But considered one of the great 20th century painters. Okay, that's it.